Dumelang Sambanani, hello South Africa. A very warm welcome to Expressions, a very happy International Day of Tolerance to you, Kochaye. And this is going to be a very special focus on today's episode. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I am your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
Sinibingelela sinamukele nami your host umxolisi wakwaMasango. Njengoba uJackie ke seshilo namhlanje International Day of Tolerance. Siyabuza ke si-expression ukuthi umuntu omusha, are we a tolerant nation? Xhumana nathi ke enkundleni zethu zokuxhumana as we have this conversation. And of course, si-expressions, we did endeavor ukuthi phela sinilethele wonke ama-conversations lawo siye saba nabo nabantu abasha ukuthi sizobona ukuthi ngabe bathini ngalolu daba. Take a look at the first story. So now we're touching base with some young people to find out what their take on tolerance is as we continue to have this conversation. Bafethu sinamukele ku-expressions. But brother, I want to know from you first, what does being tolerant mean?
To me, I'll start by defining tolerance. Tolerance is whereby you don't accept like a certain behavior in certain category of genders. Yeah, that's like there's xenophobia tolerance, there's gender tolerance, and etc.
Are we tolerant with one another as South Africans?
We should start being tolerant with each other before we can start tolerating other people from other countries, you know. And the way besibona ngakhona kwenzakala ngakhona eindabeni izinto ezikanjalo bayasikhombisa. Sometimes angisho bathi media has the power to change how the society thinks, so we should start portraying different cultures, like different tribes on TV, so that people could actually learn ukuthi we have to start respecting each other and learn the importance of diversity and how to be able to communicate with each other.
Yeah, khuluma into ebaluleke kakhulu ukuthi sitolerate abantu bangaphandle. We need to start with ourselves. So do you think we'll be able to fight intolerance with individual awareness?
Yeah, I mean, if people are willing to learn other cultures, other tribes, whatever, I think we will be able to fight this. I mean, it all starts with our mindset. If like I'm Tsonga, and then when I come to you, and then the moment you feel like I won't downgrade myself to speaking Tsonga, and then you continue speaking your Zulu, but then if you can change that, then I think we'll be able to change the intolerance in the country and be like one. And then when I come to you, want to speak my Tsonga, you will speak your Zulu, we get each other. If I come to you speaking my Tsonga, you want to respond in Tsonga, then we'll be okay. So I think we'll have to change the people's mindset and be able to like learn and will like to learn other people's cultures and everything. Yeah.
Society has adapted to certain beliefs when it comes to the instance of tolerance. Like the main thing that we can actually push is paradigm shifting. What does this mean? This means now we look at what society has been adapting to and actually try to influence that through social media, through various platforms. For example, as they were stating, tribalism is something that exists. So how do we put this into rest, if I can say? Now we can teach people that it's not about whether you know this language or whether you don't know this language. It's about you accepting who you are, but also still respecting someone else as they are. Because tribalism is something that is actually ongoing. Even when it comes to masculinity, this is something that we've seen from society, and this will like actually require a lot of work from society and individuals, because now it's not only about individuals, it's about the paradigms and just societal norms and what they build up to. So if we're able to influence societal norms and actually have paradigm shifting, then that would be a great start.
So moving forward, guys, what solutions, what local solutions do we bring into the conversation?
Firstly, we as people, we have to change our mindset, because it's not the fact that we do not have solutions. The government, for example, has implemented Section 9. We do have Section 9 in the Constitution, which states equality. We are all equal before the law. So if we as people, on the other hand, change our mindset and try to tolerate each other and try to let go of the thought of saying that if that person is Tsonga or Zulu, they cannot be in the same place, because those norms were not there back there when our forefathers were still alive. These norms came during the apartheid era when we divided. So we as people need to start to change our mindset for us to overcome things like xenophobia and tribalism, because solutions are there. It's only implementation which is lacking from our government. Section 9 states that we are all equal.
What do you think we should be doing as a nation?
So part of the bigger solution is celebrating the 16th of November, which is the International Tolerance Day. I feel like if you get together and make bigger events, like you said, on social media, we can use the platforms on social media to make these events and campaigns and promote tolerance amongst each other. If you're starting, they say charity begins at home. When we want to start at home, let's make these events, gather around and cook the variety of food that we as different tribes in South Africa, and we come together and integrate as each other to show that we are or are willing to tolerate each other as a nation.
If we outline humanity and are successful in teaching society about humanity, then there would be peace. Because this is what humanity does. Humanity looks beyond where you come from. It looks beyond xenophobia. It looks beyond gender-based violence. It looks beyond ethnicity or just where a person belongs. Humanity brings about a sense of we are both humans, then therefore we need a helping hand. So if we're able to actually be successful in teaching society about humanity and what humanity consists of, then I think there would be a change. Because if I have humanity, then I'm able to actually stay with someone and actually tolerate their language regardless of whether I understand it or not. If not, then ask for clarity. That is something humanity kind of tackles. If there are like foreign nationals in our countries, humanity doesn't even allow the word foreign nationals. Humanity is there's a brother who's from a certain country. If they're able to come to this country, I'm able to go there. That's something that we should teach society. Just humanity as a basic, what humanity is and what it actually means when someone has humanity. Because South Africa, practically, if I were to base the parameters in South Africa, do they even understand what they're saying when they say umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu? Because now when I understand humanity, even when it comes to gender-based violence, a man will understand. If they have humanity, they'll understand that it's not a competition between men and women. It's just a matter of actually integrating and working together. A woman will understand that a man is not only a perpetrator. They actually have more to them, like working together and just having that leadership quantity. So humanity is something that we need to teach to society, and I think it would help.
A big thank you to some of those young people who shared their perspectives as well as insights with us on this very important issue around tolerance. And I hope, Bohaya, you're able to see how important it is for us to be able to address issues such as tribalism as well as xenophobia. We need to embrace each other, even though we are different, because it is our diversity that makes us even that much more richer. We continue with this very important conversation after the break. Stay with us. You are watching Expressions.
You're still with Expressions, and this is your #1 youth current affairs show. Siselangeni elibaluleke kakhulu, and that is International Day of Tolerance. As Expressions namhlanje siqhubekela phambili ke neinkulumo zethu that we've had around this very important topic. Have a look at this next story.
So right now, I'm going to be speaking to young people who are foreign nationals in South Africa, and we're going to find out from them what is their take on this very important day of International Day of Tolerance. Do they feel that there's tolerance in South Africa, and what is the experience on the ground?
Celebrate International Day of Tolerance means kind of dilemma. There is a lot of intolerance in South Africa. People want to accept who you are, how you dress, how you talk, how you do business. And tolerance means to actually respect other person's view, how he dress, live, pray, everything. Not necessarily liking or laughing what he's doing, but respecting how they are actually living. But in South Africa, it's the opposite. They think us coming from Somalia, they think we are arrogant, we are violent, we are not clean, you know. So leave it South Africa. Just within our community, there is a lot of intolerance, and that we need to actually fight, you know, and stop, and actually educate people, do awareness. So tolerance in South Africa means is xenophobic tolerance? No. Is racism tolerance? No. So if you go to the taxi run, if you go to the gym, if you go to the swimming pool, if you go everywhere, you will find someone actually downgrading you. So that is actually the reality we live, unfortunately. But there are a lot of good people also who tolerate, who accept you the way you are. And I hope we reach one day where we all live together, Ubuntu, as one nation.
Intolerance in South Africa, some people they respect you, some they don't respect you. But most of people in South Africa, they think that Somalians they're crazy. They don't think that we are normal. They think that we always shout. We are taking their business away from them. Although there is an unemployment rate of almost 30% in South Africa, but there's still good people out there. But in my experience, we are not living a good life in South Africa. When the government, they're not helping us. Our people are dying just like that. They're looting us. They don't like us to be here. They say foreigners must go.
As a foreign national coming from Zimbabwe, what is your take on the issues around xenophobia and how you are treated as a young woman from Zimbabwe living in South Africa and running your own business?
As Africans, we need to be a brother's keeper. Get to understand who I am, where I come from. If we get to know our differences, why I left Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a crime-free country. But the reason why I had to leave Zimbabwe is because of the economic crisis that is there. If all Africans can identify the problems that make us run away from our countries and come into South Africa, then we'll be able to know how to interact with each other. There is something we do that is judging each other. We have to identify each other as who we are, get to know each other, and help each other towards something which is a directive way. If we are to identify our problems, be able to get solutions from the ground, it could be easier to tolerate each and everything that is happening, because we don't know what tolerance is. As we fail to abide as brothers, unite, because the only thing that we need is to get united, because united we can stand, together we fall. We can end up killing each other, and those other European countries, they'll be laughing at us.
You're on campus, you're studying. What is the culture of tolerance on campus?
To be honest, if you talk about campus, I haven't experienced any intolerance towards me. At campus, actually, I think I'm the only outsider. Consider myself as an outsider there. But the way I've been treated by fellow locals in this country, it's actually been a nice experience. I've been welcomed, we've been studying together, we've worked together. They came over to my area, went over to their area. It's actually been nice. But what happens in campus and what happens outside is a totally different thing.
And what's your experience outside? What have you seen? Give us examples.
To see my people, their shops being looted, being killed, and all of these things, it's actually, it hurts us. As a youth, it does not only hurt us physically, but mentally. Growing up in this violent way, it's not really a good thing. And when you put all this together, the future does not look bright like this. So the only way to go forward is to actually unite. It all depends on the mindset.
How safe do you feel in South Africa, being an African in Africa?
As for me, wherever I go, I have to look around. I've lost phones, I've lost cash. Like, I feel insecure when I'm in South Africa, because each and every time, those people that are flocking from their country, some of them come here, they don't have experience. They end up stealing from us, because it's not always South Africans, it's Zimbabweans who are stealing, but they group up those young Africans who come into South Africa. Instead of them having to apply for jobs or start small businesses, they tend to looting, they tend to stealing. And it's so difficult for me even to walk from a certain point to a certain point A to point B, because I don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. I might die, I might get robbed, I might get shot. Anything can happen. It's not safe in South Africa. I don't know, maybe it's because of the overpopulation or whatever the reason is, but we are not safe in South Africa.
What is the source behind this level of intolerance that we're seeing in South Africa?
Well, you can't blame all South Africans because you don't know who is who at this point, and at the same time you can't pick out names. But these things mainly happen in townships. It's the same people that are causing corruption. It's the same people that are causing gender-based violence, as we see today. And so, to be honest, before you look at us, it's what I think it's better to see what they're going through, because you can't basically fight hate with hate. It's not going to solve anything. But no one has the idea of violence for no reason. They're basically going through something. So I think that's the thing we have to look at. What is it that they're going through? And maybe if we can solve that, maybe there'll be peace. It's all about the mindset, like I said.
That insert definitely highlights the very important African value of Ubuntu, being able to see and respect the humanity within each and every person. It's important for us as young people as well, because we were able to also tackle issues such as xenophobia in this country. I hope as a young person that you're inspired to find a solution and tackle this issue of xenophobia, because this is something that cannot happen on our watch as young people. We need to make a difference and an impact when it comes to this, because at the end of the day, we are really all Africans and we're part of the same continent. We continue with this very important conversation around tolerance after the break. You're watching Expressions.
Welcome back. You're still with the Expressions, and this is your #1 youth current affairs show. So we continue getting inkulumo zethu around tolerance. Sifuna ukwazi ke namhlanje, are we tolerant as a nation? Wena lapha ekhaya, what do you think? Have a look at this next insert.
Okay, so the South African Human Rights Commission has a threefold mandate. We're there to protect, promote, as well as to monitor the attainment of human rights. And what you and I are doing now forms part of promotion, because this is going to be broadcast to a broader audience, and people will therefore get some form of education around human rights, equality, etc., etc. Protection is where someone is able to approach the South African Human Rights Commission and say, I was discriminated against on one of the prohibited grounds. So someone discriminated against me based on my sexual orientation, my race, my gender, my age, whatever other listings you can think of based on the Constitution as well as the Equality Act. And then monitoring is to look at what is the state of play. How is the state, business, civil society, society itself, and Chapter 9 institutions delivering in terms of human rights. So in other words, the Commission is quite involved in many spaces, but looking at promotions, the educational aspect is that we go into communities and we actually provide education to communities, and that also we use as an opportunity for communities then to approach us and to say that, listen, these are the issues that we have and this is what we're dealing with.
What is the correlation between tolerance and human rights?
Ultimately, what it deals with is the issue of equality and dealing with people as equals. As you know, coming from a system of apartheid and colonialism, people were based on their race, their class, and all kinds of other factors, including gender, sexual orientation, discriminated against. And tolerance, the idea behind tolerance initially was for people to be able to live together as equals. Of course, the Commission holds the view that tolerance is not good enough, that we need to accept people. I can't tolerate the fact that you're a woman, can't tolerate the fact that you're black, I can't tolerate whatever your sexual orientation may be. It's something that I need to accept, because that is the person that you are, and that will give us true equality, and that we accept people for who they are.
We've seen a lot of issues when it comes to tolerance in South Africa. We've seen a lot of xenophobic attacks, we've seen a lot of racism. But as a commission, I mean, how would you rate South Africa? Are we a tolerant country or are we intolerant?
I think it shifts as the wind blows, quite frankly. I think that as a nation, there's a lot of work that we have to do in many spaces, as you said. Race still remains the single biggest issue that the South African Human Rights Commission has to deal with, as well as other grounds of equality. As you know, that we live in a country where women and children are unsafe, generally because of their gender and their sex. We know that we also live in a country where LGBTI and GNC persons are under constant attack. And as you had pointed out, xenophobia plays a major role. So there's a lot that we have to do in terms of the work that we do, not just as a commission, but I think as a broader society, going back to the faith-based organizations, businesses, political parties, civil society organizations, and communities themselves. And I think a lot of that also comes from the fact that we still see deep-seated and deep-rooted inequalities, particularly socioeconomic inequalities within South Africa, that leads to a lot of anger, and unfortunately marginalized people then become victims and targets of that particular anger and expressions of those forms of anger. So yes, we do have a lot of work to do. I think as a nation, generally speaking, at our highest moments, about a year ago when we won the Rugby World Cup, we were all very much united, no matter who you are and no matter what your background is. But if you look at it now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, financial depression, the difficulties that we are coping with, that you see increased rates of tension and speak of people turning against each other based on all kinds of other categories. So yeah, it's a very complex situation.
What is the way forward? What is the solution? How do we turn this around so that we have a more tolerant society and we're building a culture where tolerance is part and parcel of how we interact with each other as people as a whole?
Well, I think the first thing is that people need to understand that there are real consequences for the discrimination that we've seen. And I've been talking about discrimination, forms of prejudice that we've seen playing out in society. I mean, if we look at the case of Vicky Momberg, that led to actual jail time for the words that she had used, the expletives, based on someone's race. So I think that is extremely important. But we shouldn't also just be a society that's accepting and treats people as equals because you're scared of ending up in prison or you're scared of ending up receiving a fine in the Equality Court. Ultimately, we are a nation of many, many backgrounds, whether it be based on race, whether it be based on ethnicity, whether it be based on many of the other categories that I've listed previously. And ultimately, if we want to be a prosperous and happy nation, then we need to accept each other for who we are. And that is really largely dependent on everyone playing their role and adding to the broader lesson, for lack of a better word, of acceptance as well as equality. Faith-based organizations have an extremely important role to play because South Africans, by far and large, are people of faith across the board, of course, as you're well aware. Our education system has a massive role to play there as well as an institution like the South African Human Rights Commission, as well as civil society partners in the space, is that all of us have a role to play. And we have to also dispel the notion that it is okay to privately hold certain prejudicial views, because unfortunately those private views do make their way out into the public spaces. 26 years into democracy, into a constitutional democracy, there should be no need for young people to be sexist, to be homophobic, to be racist, or any of the other categories that you can think of in terms of discrimination.
So we've come to the end of today's episode, and our offering when it comes to celebrating and commemorating the International Day of Tolerance. And we hope, Kochaye, that not only have we given you food for thought and encouragement, but you're able to understand how important it is and the role that you play in being a solution and a change agent in some of the intolerance that we've actually highlighted on today's show. So when it comes to issues such as tribalism and xenophobia, we need to understand that these are things that we as young people can really make a difference in. This is not just about tolerance, Mgo. It really is about understanding the fact that we need to respect the human rights of other people. People have a right to be different, people have a right to be diverse, and they have a right to be respected. And I hope that this show is showing us as young people that we need to be united and embrace each other's differences and embrace the fact that being African means that you get to be you and I get to be me, right, Mgo?
Absolutely, Jackie, and I think it was very inspiring to see Ugutu. We have young, brilliant minds that have added so many layers onto this very conversation that we've had. Namhlanje, the future of the country is in great hands. I can tell you that, Jackie. And thank you so much, Naola Pekaya, for watching Namhlanje. We've done our bit as a show, and we've brought it to you from one of the places which form a foundation of this very topic that we were speaking about, Namhlanje. Thank you for watching. Till next time, Adios, muchachos. Bye.